New Zealand First wants to take away non-citizens' right to vote. Plus, should we sacrifice privacy for a social media ban? And China's nuclear missile-capable test. Is Peter Thiel's bunker still up for sale? You're with Maxim Institute's Select Committee, the best political podcast in the country, no question. We are joined by some very brainy people, our research team, Marianne and Thomas. G'day, how's it going?
Great.
That's more energy. Come on. Thomas.
Great.
Oh boy, this is going to be better than you think. Let's start with New Zealand First's desire to say, you know what, if you're a permanent resident, you shouldn't be voting in New Zealand. Controversial or sensible?
I mean, it sounds like it should be controversial because it's New Zealand First and it's talking about people who've immigrated here. But actually, this is one of the least controversial ideas they've had. And the reason I say that is if you look at other democracies, they all require voting only by citizens, except for a small handful: Chile, Ecuador, Uruguay, and in some lists also Malawi. And even they don't allow residents to vote after just 1 year. Generally, it's 5. So we're like an outlier of outliers, which is why this is not controversial. The reason it sounds controversial, I think, is because in New Zealand we have this attitude that if something is difficult for someone, the government needs to make it easy. So we've got some countries that don't allow dual citizenship, which means if somebody wants to become a citizen here and wants to vote, then they have to give up. For instance, if you're from China or from India, you have to give up citizenship there first. That is a hassle. However, the question isn't, is this difficult for some people, but is this a problem for New Zealand if they can't vote? And it's not. It doesn't undermine our democracy at all. So it's actually very sensible that they're suggesting this.
Oh my goodness, New Zealand First doing something that is popular and also, on reflection,
it's normal. And
it's normal.
Yeah.
And actually politically, that when you think of the reputation that New Zealand First has, that the sense of, if it's popular, it can't be sensible. That's often the message of, say, more broad parties. Thomas, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think it reflects, New Zealand doesn't have a clear narrative about citizenship as a substantive thing. We tend to think about it only in procedural or bureaucratic terms. We have permanent residents who have essentially all the same rights to operate within New Zealand as citizens, with the exception of if they commit major crimes, we can deport permanent residents in a way we can't citizens, but otherwise they are functionally citizens. And it's, just to draw on what Marianne is saying, it's not New Zealand that's blocking dual citizenship with other countries. It's other countries who block dual citizens. So people who move here don't want to give up their old citizenship, but want, all the things here. And so that's not a problem from our end. And as Marianne says, it's not necessarily our obligation to make people's lives easier in that way. I think what we probably overrate the value of ease and underrate the value of meaning. To kind of tie voting to citizenship imbues both with more of a significance than they currently have. We say being a citizen matters because you get to vote here. And this isn't an argument about how many people should become citizens or immigration rates or any of that. It's simply, what does it mean to belong to this nation? And citizenship typically is, in most parts of the world, seen to be that criteria. You become a citizen of somewhere. You are one of the people who genuinely belongs and has a say in the future of the country because you have a stake. So it seems like an ordinary kind of policy move. The question is, will other parties be like, oh yeah, that could be an idea we could engage with, whether or not we agree, but we'll engage with it? Or will they be criticised, which is, I think, what New Zealand First wants. They want people to push back hard because it makes them seem more staunch.
And I think what's interesting to me, Marianne, is that sense of when this was tabled by New Zealand First, they said this is something that's getting real momentum in our meetings in the regions, in places where we go and meet the voters.
And I mean, they might be tapping into unhelpful sentiments, but if you look at the facts of the matter, it's really hard to say that this is a fringe idea.
Thomas, in terms of that sense that this is quite a Kiwi thing, isn't it? You're going back to your if we value voting, we should make it harder. I think there's a Kiwi attitude of we should just make things as easy as it can be. But speaking as a parent, to give away free stuff actually undermines the value of the stuff. So you give a lolly first time, and then the next time it's like, well, why don't I have 2 lollies?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been influenced in this thinking by, there's a great British media guru called Rory Sutherland, and he's always got these like kind of counterintuitive arguments for things, but how we can make the world better. And it's not always by simply ease or cheapness or any kind of these things. What you want to do is imbue things with significance and value, make people feel connected to it as an idea. And so I think, with voting, it's to make it bureaucratically easy and effortless. It's not the same thing as getting high turnout rates to vote or great participation, because if you tell people, look, this barely matters at all, anyone can do it. It also, you never have to even do any work whatsoever, then people will just it drops to the bottom of the list and you forget, right? Like it's not clear to me that the mail voting we can do for local government elections is really improving the turnouts from when you had to go and vote in person.
Far from it. I think the translation is freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose, and that's me and Bobby McGee, I think, by Janis Joplin. Let's keep moving. Social media ban. Should we sacrifice privacy to obtain that and protect our young? Thomas, you speak tech. What's happening here?
So we've had some developments in this. We've covered the idea of social media bans before, but this week the Post was reporting early in the day that the national government were considering banning VPNs, virtual private networks. So when you go online, there is an ISP address that says where in the world you're connecting from, right? Telecom providers and all of this can know where in the world you are. And this is really crucial for a government legislating how the rules of the internet, because we have to say we can only make laws for New Zealand, right? And so when I log on, normally it looks like I am in New Zealand because that's where I'm connecting from. A VPN is a way where you can log into your computer, you go into the VPN and it says, look, I'm not in New Zealand, I'm in Slovakia. And then suddenly all, the internet providers and all the people engaging with laws and legislation are like, I'm engaging with a computer in Slovakia, I'm applying Slovakian law. So if the government wants to ban social media, the easiest way to bypass those rules would be a VPN. So they were considering, should we ban a VPN as well? Or at least that's what the reporting was. And then immediately ACT come out and say, no, we will not support this. And this is essentially what countries like China do. They were very, very strong in their rhetoric that we will not ban VPNs. And so then later that day, National come out with a denial saying this is not on our policy agenda as well. So a bit of maybe instability in the coalition, but it reflects the complexity of social media bans as a policy intervention. And so it looks like the minor parties in the coalition won't go along with National banning social media for under 16s. So they're going, maybe we'll have to talk to Labour. And that's where we're at now.
Oh, so what we're seeing is a coalition of major parties. This is, again, Wayne Brown's dream, Marianne, as Labour and National working together. And both major parties are going for a populist move, which is banning social media. There's resonance there. Question, is this a business model with a future?
I mean, it would be a strange twist, but things are moving that direction. If they do indeed, Labour and National get on the same song sheet for this, it will be the major parties pushing a populist idea that honestly isn't very well thought through, and where it has been, the initial trial in Australia, not great results from that. 80% of under 16s who were on are still on. So can it even be done? There's big question mark over that. And then you've got the minor parties here pushing back against this populist idea. So it is a bit of an unusual landscape we see.
We may even be in the middle of an election season, given that the last 2 questions we've talked about are about the expression of popular will in particular, political or policy platforms. Thomas, what I think is intriguing about this is that there's obviously an awareness that social media is bad, but there's no, even as you were saying, Marianne, it's like, well, look, what about the 20%? Okay, 80% this bill won't fix, but there are 20%. We can help those people. It's almost as if they're managing the narrative in an awareness of maybe the unsuccess or the inability of, this is a long-winded question, the inability of the proposed legislation to succeed.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there, because banning social media for under 16s we know that it's bad for young people to be heavily engaged with social media. And it's not just to do with the specifics of the content they see, it's the structure of social media as a form of engagement. It's the scrolling, it's the algorithms, it's being locked in a digital world rather than engaging with the real one. We know that, and so then it's really, really tempting to be like, okay, we have to do something. And so there's a few kind of golden rules for how to think about politics and policy. First of all, never trust anyone who says we have to do something, because you can always make things worse, right? But there's real temptation in politics to point at a problem and say we have to do something, and if it feels like something, that's good. Second thing, never trust anyone who says we have to protect the children. It's a great thing. We should protect children. There's all sorts of laws we can do, but it's so often used to smuggle through laws that aren't thought through, laws that are hard to enforce or are actually going to be bad. So there's all these kind of rhetorical things that are invoked with a social media ban, but the real question is, can the specific legislative intervention make things better? It's not enough to point at a problem. It's not enough to say, won't somebody think of the children? It's always, will this actual lever we are pulling improve the situation? And our observation is that to try and ban under 16s from social media, you have to essentially avoid anonymity on the internet entirely, because every person has to prove I am over 16 to engage with these tools, which is to say I have to identify myself to these social media companies. And so that's the real trade-off: anonymity on the internet in all circumstances, or a social media ban for under 16s.
I think I've got the intervention that will work. Ban social media for anyone under 60. So that means that the parents are not allowed to engage with social media. They're sitting there in the lounge, ignoring the kids, doom scrolling, and the kids are going, well, where's mum and dad? What do you guys think?
What's the percentage of the population who are over 60 and have young children, Tim?
That would be me.
So it'll work for 99%.
Yeah. No, but my contention is that I'm not sure this is something that can be fixed legislatively. This is a parenting issue in many respects, and good behaviour is modelled in the home. So let's move to good or bad behaviour in terms of China's nuclear-capable missile test. They gave us a heads up, a couple of hours. Didn't tell America. Very interesting. Marianne, is this a message that's being sent here? What's happening?
I'm not fluent in passive aggressive, so I can only sort of read between the lines. But I think it is sending the message that we have a right to be here. This is what we're capable of. It's posturing themselves in a way that shows that they have strength and they might have intention. And can we do anything about it? Well, New Zealand on its own can't. So whatever messages are in there, I think, very intentionally showing their strength.
So, Thomas, China launches a long-range ballistic missile from a nuclear-powered submarine that ends up in this nuclear-capable missile ends up in a agreed by treaty nuclear-free zone in the South Pacific. What do you think about the timing of this? Because a lot of people have said, it's because Australia and Fiji just signed an agreement and China's been interested in Fiji, and so they're sending a message, etc. What's your take?
Yeah, it's interesting, all the different people trying to interpret what's going on in the minds of the Chinese state. It's sort of the latest version of back in the Cold War when the USSR was the big villain. It was Kremlinology, right? Trying to divine what's happening on the interior workings. And so I think it's an interesting timing, and China certainly has been trying to expand its influence in the Pacific for some time now. But I think there's a risk in over-interpreting the timing element of it. If you're going to have a capability to launch these types of missiles, every now and then you do actually have to test them. There is a practical constraint. And really, I think the question to ask is, would we feel differently about this if it happened in 3 weeks' time versus now? And my basic thinking is no, I'm quite concerned about it. I don't love the fact that nuclear-capable missiles are being tested in our backyard. But the significance of the timing of it versus the kind of thing is probably overblown in my mind. They were probably wanting to launch these as a practical thing, and also launching them in the Pacific shows where they can operate. But I think the timing is perhaps overblown as an interpretation of it.
However, that doesn't remove the fact that this is from a submarine, Marianne, and could strike a continental USA. They did not tell the Americans they were doing it. Fascinating that they told us. I think Australia and some other South Pacific nations gave us 2 hours warning. Again, there seems, even though it's not the timing that's significant, there's clearly a message here.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to have a very good imagination to be able to picture what, if they were motivated, they might do.
Do you feel better about the fact that it's only 2 hours warning? It's not a massive heads up, but last year they sailed some ships into the Tasman Sea and conducted live fire exercises with no heads up. So, 2 hours, we're growing in our relationship. I feel like this is personal growth for all of us.
Okay, so Thomas, you're...
Am I selling it?
I think it's more passive-aggressive, and the last one was more aggressive-aggressive.
But even passive aggression is our national language. They're speaking
That's
to
true.
us.
That's true.
Wait, they've learned Kiwi.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, we never say the thing we actually think. We imply it through body language, through tone, etc. Okay.
So what do you make of the way New Zealand politicians have responded? So, I mean, David Seymour kind of was some quite strong language of that's not something a friend would do. I noticed, other government MPs had similar kinds of sentiments. And across the House, there was actually a surprising degree of New Zealand trying to express disapproval, but it's a hard area to do so. What do you make of that?
Look, I think it was sort of passive-aggressive disapproval in the sense that, this is concerning. It's not what a friend would do. I would probably say China's more of a frenemy than a friend. And this is, in some sense, you could say, this is the Kiwi language, but it's also the language of diplomacy. So there was an attempt to respond in that code, that high-level diplomatic code. What do you think?
Well, yeah, because we're in a tough spot, right? Like, we can't just grovel and say, look, do whatever you want, test your warheads. We have to disapprove of it. But they are our biggest trading partner. They're in a backyard. So we kind of are dependent in a way. So I think we are walking a tightrope. So I thought we did pretty well in the kind of statements. I don't think that really gets us anywhere because we are just so vulnerable. But yeah, it really does signal just how hard it is to do diplomacy when you're a small state.
Yeah, we're kind of caught. We're the one of the smallest kids in class, and there are two enormous bullies. One is China, the other is the United States, which has become more mercurial under Donald Trump, and we have to be friends with both of them, Marianne.
Yeah. From my experience as the smallest kid in class, I think keeping a low profile was my strategy. Don't know if that works
All right,
on the international stage.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. We move now to the thing that you've all been waiting for, Fantasy Beehive, where each of us picks a trio of MPs, politicians, and basically it's a horse race. Who wins this week? How do we determine, Thomas, who wins?
Well, with the patented algorithm, it's for government MPs when the name is attached to a bill that is passing through the House. Every time it passes through a reading, there are 3 readings for every bill, points are accumulated. And same with MPs who ask questions, either spoken in the House or written questions to MPs. And then we have media hits as well. Who's getting clicks? Who's getting headlines? Basically, all the different things that an MP does or is trying to do, we use our algorithm to scrape the internet for all evidence of success, and then we assign them a score.
Okay, so who did you pick, Mary? Give us your top performer, and we'll reveal. Wait for it. We'll reveal the success after this. But who did you pick?
I don't actually know which one was my top.
Okay.
Probably Winston Peters.
Okay. Oh, you picked Winston Peters.
Well, no. When we get to the how did it go, I'll tell you why that wasn't.
Okay. I can already sense a descending intonation. Thomas, who did you pick?
But before I even get to my picks, and this isn't me disclaiming success, but it's been an interesting week in the House because last week the government went into urgency, so they were pulling overtime, so a lot more was happening in the House. So there were actually a ludicrous amount of points on the line this week, it turns out. We didn't know when we picked, but that's the state of play. And so my best performer, Todd McClay, our minister talking a lot about trade deals and all of these things. So I was hoping he's, it's quite a topical, topical topic at the moment. And so I was hoping he's going to play well for me.
By the way, we don't approve of tautology, so a topical topic, Thomas, I think it's self-evident.
Well, Tim, the first rule of Tautology Club is the first rule of Tautology Club.
I see what you did there.
That's my best philosophy joke.
And Marianne's rolling her eyes.
So anyway,
I picked. I thought. It's sort of a trade-off because I picked, amongst those whom I picked was Christopher Luxon. You go for the PM. We're in election season. The PM's going to get a lot of traction. I also thought Marama Davidson because the Greens have been pretty solid in there. They're actually, there has been a flight, or maybe not a flight, a waddle back to Greens. They sort of dipped a bit, but they seem to be performing better in polls. So how did we do, Marianne? Oh, Thomas was breathing. What?
Well, I was just saying, so no one's picked Nicole McKee, who, sitting in urgency, has managed to accumulate 63 total points, which I think is, as one pick, is more than we've ever scored with a trio in a week.
Please, not that I don't know who Nicole McKee is, but remind me.
So she is ACT's deputy leader, and then she has several portfolios for them, including some bills on some regulatory matters, which were passing through the House pretty quickly. No one's picked Paul Goldsmith, a National Party MP, with a range of portfolios. He got 42 points. Because again, urgency is passing a lot of bills through the House, and Simeon Brown for National as well, 41 points. So there were an immense amount of points on the line that none of us picked.
I'm not, and I've got to say, at Maxim, we're not a fan of the use of urgency because it is fast law is typically bad law, and we have some of the fastest laws in the West anyway. And this is something that we certainly held the previous government to account for their overuse of urgency, and now the coalition is doing it. It's I'm sorry, but it's not the way to ram laws through.
it's a bad precedent, and my scores this week give me one more reason to think.
What did you get?
Well, I chose people who didn't have bills that were being rushed through.
You took a principled approach to, I will not pick MPs whose bills go through under urgency. That's what you
I
were
won't
thinking.
ride that way.
Yeah.
And I also picked Winston Peters. Most of his points were news stories about him not being here. So that shows how strategic I was. One of my picks wasn't even in the country.
Oh, my goodness. So what was your number?
10. Total.
Okay.
10.
Does that make you happy?
From where I'm sitting, 10's pretty good because I got a miserable 7. Thomas?
Well, I got 21, so strong win, but I won't brag too much because I was right for the wrong reasons. I picked Todd McClay because I'm like, he is our Minister for Trade, you know? That's an important thing that's happening. There's a lot of, stuff. That's where I'll get my points. It turns out he's also Minister spokesperson for primary industries and was passing some bills through there. And that's where most of his points came, was from this portfolio of his I wasn't even considering when I picked him. So MPs wear many hats. And, sometimes you get points in strange places.
And look, I think this underlines when we look at MPs in election season, we need to remember what is their legislative record, because that's who they are. They can say anything, but you look at the legislative record, and that's the true indicator of identity. And to use your phrase, Thomas, right, but for many of the wrong reasons. Perhaps you could say that about the Select Committee, but I would just like to emphasise that we're still right. Okay, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.